there are so many different pedagogy available today, right? There's Montessori, there's kindergarten, there's Reggio Emilia, there's IB, CBSE, ICSE. Just some light on what are these? What do they actually mean?
To me, they mean nothing.
What?
To me, they mean nothing. What is every curricula telling you? They have learning outcomes.
Yeah,
It's again the approach,
the methodology.
the methodology. So CBSE doesn't tell you have to approach it this way.
Okay.
It gives you a framework. You decide how you want to run it. Okay. Your kindergarten is literally just a philosophy where he's told you these are the good ways of doing it, but whatever people have imbibed. IB is a lot of inquiry based, questioning, research led ways of teaching. But end of it, the learning outcomes that come out of everything and or whichever curricula you're teaching, the learning outcomes are similarly defined.
Age ways.
Is there anything different that an IG or an a state board? Why that a state board child? Everybody has to learn how to read, write, count,
Yeah.
know the basics of science.
Yeah.
It's only how each boils down to how each school implements that. So in my mind, actually, the curricula doesn't matter. It matters how it is going to be implemented. So the question the parent has to ask the school,
Yeah.
not are you a CBSE or an IGCSE, it doesn't matter. The questions the parent have to ask the school is how do you teach?
How do you implement?
What do you teach? How are your teachers empowered? How much do you invest as a school in teacher training?
Yeah.
But parents don't ask those questions,
Yeah,
right?
parents-
Those are never points of discussions.
Yeah.
So that narrative has to change. Otherwise, it's just fancy to have different curricula. And because there is a need, all schools have multiple curricula.
But yeah, but also like the world is changing so rapidly, right? So there is a need for also to teachers to sort of be changing in a sense to suit the world. Is that also happening?
I mean, just sometime earlier in the podcast, also we mentioned that teaching needs to have constant upgradation because the pace at which the world is changing.
Correct.
Yes, Montessori as a system of education is more than 100 years old. The methodology hasn't changed, but the approach with which the teacher comes into the class has to change because most of the children today already know how to work with blocks. So if you give them a pink tower and a brown stairs, it is very, and you don't even need to give a presentation.
They know how to do
They
it.
can already know what to do because they worked so much at home also with it.
Correct. Yeah.
So, but there the teacher has to change. Do I need to give the presentation? Do I need to show the child how to work? Or can I say, the space is yours, build it?
Yeah.
But if I am conditioned by the fact that I did the course and the course taught me that I have to give the presentation this way and I have to do it that way, that's where it will become a problem. Because then the child is bored. Why am I teaching the child something which the child knows
already
to do?
knows. Yeah. So what does the child actually need from the teacher today?
Like I mentioned earlier, the teacher first needs to build only on socio-emotional learning. That is where we are lacking.
And that's
And
very
early
relevant
years,
today, right?
very relevant today. And early years is where the child learns how to regulate one's emotions. It learns how to live in society. Because it grows up in a household where everybody's dancing around him or her.
Or the opposite, where parents don't have time for the child at all.
Both ways. Both
Yeah.
ways.
Yeah,
It
I
could
think-
and because the parents don't have time, there is overindulgence.
Yeah.
And you're already buying all the possible reading, learning material. Children come already knowing some ABCDs or numbers 1 to 100, and proudly parents come and tell us that, my child knows. And I'm saying, no, please. It's a problem for me because my teacher has to work on getting the child to unlearn that.
Correct.
Because
They know it as a rote.
Yes. And that's not important for me. But your child finds it difficult to express oneself. He's having problem with expressions, regulating emotions, building independence. Those are skills which parents need to build at home.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I work with the Anganwadi system, and I see differences and similarities in what you're saying. Parents, though, might not be as indulgent as possibly the parents that you serve, but there is a clear want of the same things, right? They are also constantly behind numbers and reading and writing, right? And the work that we do also sort of reinforces on the emotional regulation, the caregiving, and spending the time and such, right? So my question to you, Jamila, is but what do you think children should come to school knowing, or what should parents be doing at home today?
That's a really good question, Amrita. So, if I have to answer that, I would say all parents need to do is to engage in conversations,
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
stories, engage with children, which is in a meaningful way, whatever, whether you're playing with them, talking to them, taking them out to play, and completely avoid screen time for them. They don't deserve it because that stimulation really works against their developmental milestones. But there is no limit to the amount of conversations you can have
With the child.
with the child.
So time is
And stories.
okay.
Stories, songs, rhymes, rhythms,
Yeah.
anything that you can do. You don't, the school is meant to teach the literacy and the numeracy.
Right.
Why should you teach it at home? You're
Awesome.
paying the school to do it. Let them do their job.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But you also have to concentrate not just on this. I think it's very important that parents should concentrate on, or the home front should concentrate on making the child independent. We, in our community or in our Indian setup, the adults like to do things for the children, assuming that the child cannot. He's too small. No, but how can I work to make the child
Support the
independent?
child,
Yes,
right.
even if
Yeah,
it is to
yeah.
eat, it is to get dressed. Small things make a difference.
Yeah.
Give them enough to do and work with their hands. Don't stop them saying you will fall, or you will hurt yourself, you will hurt yourself.
Go against your natural parenting
Yes.
tendencies.
So what?
Yeah.
Yes, but be around to make sure that the child does not harm
Safe,
themselves.
right.
But teach the child to use the things correctly. Even if it is climbing a stair, teach the child to climb the stair. Teach the child to use a knife. Teach the
Wow.
child to use a scissor. Don't say, if you use a scissor, you'll cut your hand, which means you're already using a negative connotation to scissor and a knife.
Yeah. You're building that fear.
It's an important thing in life that he needs to learn how to cut and how to hold a scissor or a knife. So teach them to do things right rather than putting the sense of fear in the child. So concentrate on independence, concentrate on creating a secure environment, concentrate on an environment to say, I am there for you.
Yeah.
Come what may, I am here for you.
Yeah.
So give them that comfort.
Yeah.
And leave the teaching and learning to the school.
It's easier said than done. I know what questions to ask tomorrow when I go for my PTM. Sort of going back to just the school systems and the schooling itself, right? Like, and if I could just ask you to describe what is an ideal preschool and how should it look like for a 4-year-old?
So it doesn't matter whether you are following a Montessori or you're following a Waldorf or you're following a Reggio Emilia, whichever system or pedagogy you're following, the first and foremost is the environment welcoming?
Okay.
Is it a nice, happy, brightly lit space? When I say environment welcoming, it doesn't mean it has to have the most expensive objects or toys and
Yeah,
learning.
absolutely.
But is it just an inviting environment for the child? Is the adult and the child welcoming
As a
the
nature.
child? Yeah. Is the adult in the room welcoming the child with a smile and a hug?
Yeah.
I know there is a lot of talk about touch and children, and that is a separate thing altogether. But children need that. So
Yes.
is the adult in the room doing that? Is the child coming back home to say, I want to go to the school tomorrow? So how do you create that feeling? Is the environment stimulated enough to offer enough learning which happens sensorially through their senses and which offers an opportunity for them to explore after having learned? Those are very, very important facets, and you can work with it even with small materials which you can make You don't have to buy the most expensive
Yeah.
materials.
Yeah.
You can stimulate children with the most simplest. Very often we've seen children, the most expensive toys, but the children still want to work with play with the katoris and the spoons.
Or
So
you get
that's
a toy, the cardboard box is more interesting.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. You said that. So it's about how you can be creative with making materials which will stimulate them sensorially.
Okay.
So I think that's a perfect learning environment.
I mean, none of your answers had textbooks, workbooks,
No,
none of that.
because to me, a worksheet only helps a child repeat, or it only shows the teacher that this child can repeat what I have done.
Yeah.
Whereas the main task of education is to see how much of that has been intrinsic. Am I just recreating or reproducing what the teacher taught me?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We really need to move away from our ideologies of what schooling and education should be and allow for more of these explorations,
Yes.
the freedom, the choices, right?
The freedom is a great point that you mentioned.
Yeah.
We have to give the child the freedom in the environment to explore. Not just to explore, the freedom in the environment should be such that they should feel happy to question the adult.
Yeah. Yeah.
It should be a
Absolutely.
space where they don't feel judged,
Yeah.
where there is no fear to say, oh my God, what will happen if I ask this question? Or an early years child wondering, should I work with that? What is my teacher going to say? Can I go and touch that? What would the adult in the classroom say?
Yeah.
Those come from fear. So am I creating a safe environment? And freedom is very important. But the key word here is freedom with limitations.
Boundaries.
It is important for the child to know, because you can't just, the world doesn't allow you the freedom that you want.
Right.
So it's a life skill that the child needs to learn. You're free, but within this.
And children learn that.
Children
right?
learn that.
Yeah, they like
But
the
are
boundaries.
we giving them an opportunity is what it is. Children like boundaries and they respect boundaries.
Yeah.
But it's about how we create those boundaries.
Yeah.
So that, according to me, yes, freedom within limitations is one of the most important aspects in a preschool.
Yeah, I love it. I love the fact that you spoke about just how the environment should be, how welcoming the adult should be. And I think it also reiterates what you said about your spiritual preparation, right? And overall, the space inviting the child with joy and inquisitivity and curiosity. I'm leading towards the end
But
of.
most often, let me tell you, you ask many adults, and most often they will tell you that it was an early years educator who left an impression on her. On them.
Yeah, many times I've heard that.
Most often you will. And why is that? Because that space didn't concentrate only on literacy,
Academics,
numeracy, and
yeah.
academics.
Yeah, that feeling of cared for and
Yes,
that relationship
yes.
went beyond that
The
of
connect
just.
which the child and the teacher have, it goes beyond that, because the child spends so much time here.
Yeah.
It's like a second home.
Yeah. But I mean, as much as it doesn't, it's not about academics, it's so much underlying learning that is happening, right?
Yeah,
And-
absolutely.
And more stronger or more freer the environment is, I feel the learning is deeper.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
Awesome.
On that note, if you have to speak about, very often you wonder, or if the children come home, children go home and they say, what did you do today? We played.
Yeah.
You will get, my child says every time he comes to school, he's only playing.
You know what? I just complained to my son's school about this. My son doesn't tell me anything he does. He just tells me he played.
Yeah. But what is play? There is so much of learning happening in play.
Yeah.
If the child is building a mountain or a hill out of a sand pit, if you have to enumerate the learnings that is happening,
Yeah.
one is
so much.
curiosity. How much of sand do I need to take to make this? Or he's not only being curious, he's analyzing, he's logically making
Decisions. Right.
and he's also learning to accept failure, because it's very possible it's going to fall.
Yeah.
So how do I learn how to cope with that?
I think every podcast I'm sitting with, I think my biggest reflection is how do I unlearn so many of these things I think about as learning, right? I go back to your thing about, but CAT cat?
No, in play also the issue we have is everything is structured.
Yeah,
Everything is structured.
correct.
Right from your PE classes to your after school classes for physical
Yeah, the
activity.
adult defines what play is,
Absolutely.
right?
And gone are the times when children just went and played. And that's why somebody plans things for you. But unstructured play leads to so much more learning.
Yeah. So then, Jamana, then how does it fit into a traditional classroom, right? Like, how would you bring this into a system that's so, lack of better word, rigid already?
See, the early years, I can't do much when it gets into formal schooling after grade 1.
Correct.
Okay, so you are bound by 30-minute periods, 40-minute period, whatever that is. But in early years, you have the freedom. They need to
Okay.
play every day,
Yeah.
and that is should be a non-negotiable.
So schools should take those
Whether you
decisions.
teach or you don't teach, or one day you don't, but you have to play.
Yeah, yeah. So
And it's not enough if you say I have to play at this particular time only for this. If they want to play that day twice a day, take them out.
so messy
Learning
play
can
or
happen outside.
sorry?
Learning can happen in the playground.
Correct.
You can teach them the same sounds, the same numbers. They can count every step that they're climbing on the jungle gym. Why does it have to be that it has to be in a classroom? It doesn't have to be.
Yeah. That agency to be given to that educator becomes paramount, right?
Yes.
Can the teacher make that call?
Yes.
Um,
The teacher needs to be given the freedom
yeah,
to take those
that-
decisions
yeah.
based on what the child wants.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm hearing that's possible, right?
It is very much possible.
Yeah, and I've seen some fantastic schools that are doing this today. So messy play versus neat classrooms
Messy play always.
any day, right?
Always.
Yeah, yeah.
Always. That's a battle you face because the problem stems from the adult impatience again. And I always tell people when they come to me saying there's a problem with the child, I said, no, talk to the parent, you'll find, or the educator. Talk and you will find out the problem rests somewhere else. It's not with the child.
It's a reaction to something.
The child, yes. Keep observing because the child is constantly communicating, but are you listening?
Yeah, do I have the time? Do I have the agency? Do I have the freedom?
And are you even capable, or are you even putting an effort to decipher that emotion or
Yeah.
decipher that expression?
And that's the preparedness.
And that's the preparedness. Yes.
Absolutely. Love it. So, to end us off, before we go into our rapid fire, if I could sort of ask you one question around, and this is like a dream question, right? Like, what do you think preschool educators should unlearn?
Like I started the podcast with, the first thing for preschool educators to unlearn is that I know everything and I am the giver of information and the child is a passive receiver.
Correct.
Child is not a passive receiver.
So
You are
believing.
only here to facilitate the learning process. So give the child in small bits when the child needs it. Not because you have decided that this has to be done in June, this has to be done in July. So mainly it has to do with the fact that the child is paramount in the class.
Keep
And
the
then
child at the
nothing else
center of
matters.
everything, right? Beautiful.
But it's not just child-centered education. We have to also look at teacher-centered support systems.
Oh, I love that.
The teacher-centered support systems are lacking. And that's why we're talking today to say what is lacking.
So
We're
the
not doing
system
enough.
that supports the teachers also needs to step up,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And that's your school management, that's your policies,
That's the parents.
parents, yeah.
And the
All
whole...
system, yeah.
Have you heard of assessments in kindergarten?
I have.
Why?
Yeah.
And when I speak of assessments and I tell my teachers, assessments is, don't look at it assessments as marks for the child. It is an assessment to you. So if you show me the child's marks and they're not good enough, you haven't been able to teach effectively. It only shows how good a teacher
It's not
you
about the
are. It's
child,
not
but-
about the child, it's about the adult all the time. So let's start putting the child in front of everything else.
Beautiful. So, my next question then for you is, if there was a backpack for a 4-year-old and you could fill it with anything you want as a teacher, right? And you've been a teacher, what will you fill that backpack with?
Very interesting question.
Yeah. I know you're not going to say workbooks, that much I know.
So the first that I would put into it is curiosity.
Okay.
I think it's very important that we have to allow the curiosity to be intact. Something as simple as watching ants walk in a line. The second I would say is emotional security.
With
A space which allows the child to question, to do, to speak, to perform the activities he wants to, or even question the teacher. The third thing I would put is joy for small things, which is lost
for the child.
for the child and even for the adult, to take joy in the small discoveries that the child makes. Even if it is writing his first letter, the
Celebrating that,
the
yeah.
adult also needs to take joy in that thing, and also the child, allow the child to take joy in small things.
Okay.
And I don't know if you asked 3 or 4, but the fourth I cannot miss. It has to be kindness and empathy. And that builds from early years, where you teach a child.
Absolutely.
Or you can't teach. I'm sorry, teach is a wrong word. You can't teach. They have to imbibe it from you. So how do you show them kindness? How do you show
Yeah.
them empathy?
Yeah.
Because that's what we have as a
Yeah.
problem. Nobody cares for the other person's space.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. It puts so much things in perspective for me, both as an educator and as a parent. Um, I think what you said really resonates with me in so many different levels. I'm not going to say it's easy. I think there's so many things that decide some of these things, but I feel a sense of hope that we're all talking the same language, and it's happening, right? I've seen it in schools, I've seen it in educators, I've spoken to people. So I'm very excited to see how all of this plays out for our children. So I'm going to go to my last segment, which is called the rapid fire.
Okay.
Very coffee with Karan.
I wasn't ready for this.
But yeah, it's going to be easy, don't worry. Right?
So do I get to pause also?
No, it's only me. One word that you think describes a great preschool.
Alive and vibrant.
A toy or a material every preschool must have.
Things which lead to exploration and experience.
Open-ended toys.
Sensorially, yes.
Awesome. One thing that parents worry too much about schools.
Academics and performance.
The CAT. And one thing that parents don't worry about enough.
Conversations and keeping the child engaged.
Conversations with each other? Like
Conversations with the child.
with the child. Okay. Wow. Okay. One habit that makes a great preschool teacher.
Observation and patience.
Oh, thank you, Jamala. That was perfect. Thank you so much. I think your rapid fire sort of helped reiterate all the good things that you shared with us about schooling, about systems, about parents, about children. Thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a wonderful thing. It's so great you guys are doing such good work with early years.
Thank you for listening in. That was me in conversation with Jamala, where we unpacked about the early learning spaces, how they should function, what really works for the child, what do we as parents ask of schools, and how do we prepare ourselves as educators and adults in service of the child. Thank you for listening in. Stay tuned for more episodes on everything about early childhood, because early childhood matters.